A satellite captured something impossible in the desert. A perfect grid, streets, blocks, towers buried under miles of sand. Then a storm exposed one corner. And the first symbol they found wasn't ancient, it was fresh. Everyone thinks deserts are empty, but sometimes they're not empty. They're sealed. Because what they saw wasn't a ruin. It was a city layout so precise it looked like it was designed by engineers, and it matched no known civilization. And here's the part you want to forget. When the team marked the location to return the next morning, their GPS coordinates were the same, but the site was gone, like the sand had repaired itself overnight. The story begins with a remote sensing analyst, we'll call her Dr. Layla Sarin, who spent her nights comparing satellite scans for drought mapping. Her job was to detect subtle changes, soil moisture, shifting dunes, hidden riverbeds. Then she noticed a pattern that didn't behave like nature. A shape under the dunes, straight lines, right angles. A perfect circle inside a square. In a desert where nothing should be straight. So she zoomed in, and her hands went cold. Under the sand was a grid like a city plan, not random, not erosion. Blocks aligned like neighborhoods, a wide central strip like a boulevard. Smaller lines branching off like alleys, and at the center, a massive shape almost like a stadium or a circular temple too large to be natural. Layla ran the scan through different filters: infrared, elevation mapping, ground-penetrating radar overlays from public datasets. Every method agreed. Something big was buried there, something organized, something built. Layla did what every scientist does. She tried to disprove it. Maybe it was an oil survey grid. Maybe it was a modern construction plan. Maybe it was a glitch. So she cross-checked historical imagery going back decades. Nothing, no roads. No camps, no drilling, just dunes. But the structure underneath wasn't shifting like sand. It was stable, fixed, which means it had been there a long time. Then she made the mistake that changes stories into nightmares. She emailed a small research group that specialized in desert archaeology and included the coordinates. They replied within hours. Not excited, worried. Their message was only one sentence. "We've seen this before. Don't go alone." 2 nights later, a rare storm rolled through the region, violent winds. Heavy rain, the kind that carves dunes like blades. The next morning, new satellite images updated. And something had changed. One corner of the grid was no longer hidden. A piece of it was exposed. A single rectangular surface, smooth, dark, reflecting sunlight like metal or stone. Layla stared at it for a long time, because the exposed surface looked less like ancient rock, and more like a sealed roof, as if the city wasn't simply buried. It was covered. A week later, a 3-person team reached the site. Layla, an archaeologist named Hassan, and a local guide who refused to be recorded. The dunes were quiet, no birds, no insects, just wind. They used a handheld ground scanner. The device screamed. Hassan marked the edges with flags, and every flag landed exactly where the satellite grid predicted. That shouldn't happen by chance. Then they started digging where the storm had exposed the corner. The sand came away faster than expected, like it was loose on purpose. At only a meter down, their shovel hit something hard. Not rock, a flat surface. They brushed it clean and saw an engraved line, a symbol, perfectly sharp, as if it had been carved yesterday. As they cleared more sand, the rectangle became a panel, a slab fitted with seams. Not a wall, not a floor, a hatch. Hassan tried to lift it using a metal bar. It didn't move, but it made a sound, a hollow thud that echoed deeper than it should, like there was a massive empty space below. Layla pressed her palm against the surface, cold, unnaturally cold. Then the guide stepped back, eyes wide, and said something in a whisper that Hassan translated slowly. "The desert hides what it doesn't want returned." Layla laughed nervously. Hassan didn't, because the scanner was now picking up something new. Not just empty space, motion, a subtle vibration beneath the hatch, like air pressure changing, like something down there was responding. They decided to stop digging and document everything: photos, measurements, GPS, tags. Layla raised her camera again and noticed something near the edge of the panel, a mark in the sand that didn't match footprints, a line dragging outward like something heavy had been pulled recently. Then another detail. Near the hatch seam there was a small set of scratches. Not ancient, bright, new, as if metal had rubbed against it in the last day or two. Hassan traced the scratches and frowned. "Someone's been here," he said. Layla asked. "Who?" The guide didn't answer. He was staring across the dunes, face drained of color. Because on the horizon far away, a thin vertical shape stood against the sunlight. A pole? A person? No, too still, too straight. It looked like a tower, but there were no towers in the desert. They did what you do, they packed up. Fast. They drove back to their base camp and planned to return at sunrise with more equipment and permits. But when morning came, and they followed the GPS back, they found nothing. The coordinates were correct. The dunes were correct. But the exposed corner, the hatch, the flags gone, smoothed over like someone had ironed the desert flat. Layla ran to the exact point where she'd stood. No footprints, no disturbance, only untouched sand. Except for one thing, half buried at the surface, was one of their flags, the fabric torn, the pole bent. Like it had been pushed down from below. Layla never published the coordinates. She says the last satellite scan she saw before the file was restricted showed the grid fading, not because it disappeared, but because something above it changed shape, like a covering was shifting. And there's one final detail she refuses to explain publicly. That night, after they returned, she opened her camera gallery. Every photo was intact, except the clearest shot of the symbol. That image was replaced by a single frame of black with white text burned into it. Not yours. So if you ever hear someone say deserts are empty, remember this: some places aren't empty. They're sealed. And if you want the next story in this series, subscribe, because the next file is worse. A team that found a staircase under ice and never reached the bottom.